Today we're talking about something cool. Today we're going to talk about my reflection for my first 2 years in medical school. So for anyone new to the channel, my name is Ibayamba. I finished my second year of medical school, and I'm in my transition period before my third year of medical school. We take the step 1 exam. Before I take this big exam, I want to talk about a few things I learned 2 years in medical school. I started medical school in 2021. Interesting time, right after the pandemic had ended. So we were in person, we were having a good time, being able to see everybody, being able to study interactively with my classmates. I moved from California to New Jersey to start medical school. You can see that was a different move, getting adapted to the people, getting adapted to a new state, getting adapted to a new culture. After having done medical school for 2 years, there's a lot of things I learned and a lot of things I have to share today. I'm going to break this down into 5 things. So the first thing I'll talk about is making connections early, connecting material early. The second thing I want to talk about is making practice challenging and new. Third thing I want to talk about is tying everything into your own life. So tying everything that you learn into your own life. The fourth thing I want to talk about is reflecting after every experience in medical school. And fifth thing I want to talk about is using medicine to increase your skills. Okay, so let's begin. Everything in life and in medicine is about first principles. So whenever you learn cardiology, you learn the brain, sometimes you want to dive into the details. You want to learn every different fact about strokes or about coronary heart disease or about hypertension. But you have to almost understand the subject at a broad scale before you can kind of learn all the details. The biggest thing I learned in regards to learning was creating connections early. So trying to see how I can map out the concept early, having that logic layer. So going back to first principles. If I'm learning about the heart, I want to learn about the heart structure, the anatomy, but then I want to learn about the importance of the heart in the body. So I want to connect the heart to every organ system. How does the heart serve the brain? Well, it sends blood there. How does it serve the kidneys? It sends blood there that's filtered. Okay. How does it serve the liver? The liver detoxifies blood and it sends it back to the heart. I looked at the heart in relation to the whole body. I never looked at anything in isolation. I did that at the beginning of every subject. I made these broad connections. That was the first thing, and that helped me understand everything, but also it made medicine interesting. Sometimes we get into this habit of just memorizing things or just looking at things with this myopic view. Myopic means just like looking too close to the paper. Right here I have this calendar of March. If I look too close to the paper, I really can't read anything. That's the analogy for medicine. You kind of want to look at it from a bird's eye view to understand exactly what you should be taking away. Look at the subject as a whole. And I know you may not understand much, but watch videos or just do anything that can help you get that broad scale before you dive deep. And I promise you it'll make it easier because there has to be a logic there. There has to be a logic behind everything you're learning. And if you can establish the logic early, you'll be ready to conquer any subject. The second thing in regards to learning is that you have to tie every piece of information into your own life. I read somewhere or heard somewhere that like the brain has so much RAM, so much storage space that we can memorize like maybe let's say like 1,000 movies or something. Like, you know, we can memorize a ton of stuff, but the problem that we have is that we don't connect things in our brain, and our brain only learns via importance. So for me to find, let's say, this deodorant important, I have to connect it to what deodorant's purpose is, right? Deodorant's purpose is to make it so that we don't stink. Because I know that I can think about the times where I have been around someone that stunk. I'm like, okay, so they should use deodorant. And now there's different types of deodorant. And I can connect deodorant to my own life. Everything you learn in medicine has to be connected to your own life. So sometimes we learn about like people having allergic reactions. I've seen someone have an allergic reaction before, so I know exactly what happened. Their throat closed up, they fainted. So now when I learn about allergic reactions in the immune system, I can connect that to that experience. So everything has to be connected because the brain has a huge capacity. I actually believe that you probably can remember everything you ever learned. I know that's like a bold claim, but I truly believe that. The next thing I learned was that practice has to be challenging and new. So once you've connected all the material, you have to practice it. You have to practice retrieving it and using it, right? So that's all medicine is. You prescribe things, you do a procedure. It's just retrieving the knowledge that you do have. So practice always has to be new and novel. That means that sometimes you may use a question bank to do practice, but sometimes you may teach. And there's different strategies to teaching. Sometimes you may do group teaching, and that's something that helps material stick. Another thing you could do is you could create your own practice questions. I know it's tedious, but all these things I'm telling you are ways in which you can make practice different. Because for the brain to learn, it has to be put in novel situations that kind of induce stress onto it. And don't shy away from challenging practice. Don't shy away from concepts that really challenge you or that you struggle with. The next thing is to reflect. Something I got into the habit of at the end of my first year was after every exam, I would reflect on how I felt during the exam, what I learned during the exam, what are the areas that I succeeded in, what are the areas that I struggled with, what were the questions I got wrong, why I got those questions wrong, and how I felt about the subject overall. In every exam, I thought it was kind of tedious. I thought it was silly, but I would just do this daily. I would always reflect. At the end of it, I looked at my reflections from about 5 exams and I saw patterns. And I was like, oh wow, okay. So reflecting is how you figure out your holes. You figure out the things that kind of stump you. But sometimes we get questions wrong, or this applies to life. You can extrapolate, but when we don't reflect, we leave things to chance. And we're taking an exam where people are grading you in real time. They're giving you real life feedback. So if you're getting feedback, then that means that there's patterns you're noticing or patterns that the test writers are looking for that you're not catching. And reflecting is the only way you can find patterns, the only way you can reboot your thinking. So reflecting was the most important thing. And last but not least, the biggest lesson I would tell for everyone going to medical school is medical school is not about learning medicine. Bold claim, I know. I learned after 2 years that you're supposed to use medicine to increase your skills. Let me explain. So going to medical school, yeah, you're going to learn the physiology, the anatomy, the pathology to the body, but medical school is a place where you're around, let's just take our class, for example. You're around maybe 200 to 300 high achievers. It's a place where you're in the hospital dealing with patients. It's a place where you're giving public speeches. So use medical school to learn how to speak clearly and concisely. Use medical school to learn how to listen to your classmates. Use medical school to learn how to learn the nature of others and your own nature. Use medical school to learn how to problem solve. Use medical school to increase your skills. In medical school, you'll be put in so many different novel situations. And if you look at it like just, oh, I'm just trying to succeed. I'm just trying to get my grade, get the highest grade, become a surgeon, become a pediatrician, or become a gynecologist, you're going to miss out on the most valuable thing. And medical school is almost like a training ground. Yeah, you're training to be a doctor, but you're also learning how to treat people. And treating people is a bunch of things. It sells, right? Because you have to meet a patient, meet a person. You have to figure out what's going on with their life, where their problem lies, and how you can offer a solution in a way that benefits them. There's also like the technical parts of medicine that you'd also learn. And man, there's also like just the social aspect, dealing with people from different sides of the country, different places on the globe, contributing, adding value. So the biggest thing you can do is use medicine to increase your skills. Think about the person you can become at the end of those 4 years instead of just the degree you'll have. Everyone gets a piece of paper. Everyone gets that MD. But who you will be as an MD. So those are the things I learned in medical school. Thank you for listening. My name is Ivayamba. You could have been anywhere on the planet, but you were here tonight. So for that, we really do thank you. And yeah, I hope you found some value. Like, comment, share, and see you soon.